She's back and trouble is brewing. Phil pushing for visiting us with Jane Mill. We have been NC with Mill since April 2023 and LC with Phil. She tried to sabotage our wedding, read history. The wedding went off well without her though, and we have since been LC with Phil and NC with her mostly because she promised to make an effort to keep in touch, but her ego is bigger than her head and she didn't. We didn't bother. She even sent ugly messages to So about me, and he shut her down on a call and told her she can't talk shit about his son's wife and expect to have a relationship with him. The text message, verbatim, is on my previous post. Update 1. It is also at the bottom of this post. After Mill was forced to miss our formal wedding ceremony at the courthouse, she kicked and screamed at my Phil, and he called us the next morning and forced us to talk to her. He put her on speaker and she immediately started with her typical narc behavior of victimizing herself. So did a brilliant job of standing his ground and calling her out on her BS. After a little back and forth, we agreed to visit them for tea. The visit went well. We didn't talk much, stayed for half an hour, played with the dog and came back to our hotel. Cut to yesterday, 2 months since we met them. Phil randomly calls So and puts Mill on the line without asking So first. Mind you, at this point she has made no effort to stay in touch with us for 2 months since our showdown and hasn't called So on her own since April 2023. So replies to her questions with indignation and stonewalls her. It lasts hardly a minute. Later So called Phil and gave him a good talking about not becoming a mouthpiece and enabler. Phil goes off about how long will we behave this way, we are drifting apart as a family, and then the truth comes out. All of this happened yesterday because my father is visiting us and both Mill and Phil are butthurt that he gets to come stay with us. Phil concludes with, I want to have a chat with you and up later in the week and plan how to bury the hatchet with this matter. So responds with, sure, but don't expect us to make any first moves for reconciliation because we won't. This is where I need advice. I know that Phil will try to be Mill's mouthpiece and expect us to make space for her nonsense because she is old, because I am dying, he has a neurodegenerative disease, because you're my only child. This will conclude with him wanting to visit us and stay with us for a while along with Mill. I do not want to keep going in circles, so I'm going to suggest that if he wants to solve this he better agree to come to family therapy with Mill, otherwise the status quo remains. Is this a good idea? Please do read the history before advising. AITA. P.S. 1. We do not stay in the same state as Jane Mill and Phil. 2. My father stays in a different state and is visiting us for a festival. If you've reached this far and want to read the text message that Mill sent about me to So, sometime in June, here it is. As far as I know I am getting victimized by you and up for nothing from the start. She has been instigating you each time from the start since she came to live here, for nothing, and you like a wind-up doll speak out on me, blaming me for your first marriage failure, then second marriage created problems, etc. The last day you two left the state, you specifically told your father, only he should come to your house and I should not come. What does this mean? Misunderstandings can be between Mill and Dill, and as time goes by they get resolved by Dill adjusting. But I have never seen anything like this. You people won't come wherever I am present means that as long as I am in this house you will say you people won't come here. Is that what you want? I get separated from this family and move away. PL specify. How can I be free with Op, who is out finding faults and creating misery for me with absolute no respect to age or any factor? I have never faced such things in my life and I can't handle this. Comment. No therapy. Because really, all you want is for your Mill to stop being a narcissist, which is not something any therapy can do. She is who she is. You will never be liked or accepted. Your husband will never be liked or accepted unless he conforms to the idea in her head of who he is. She isn't interested in who he really is. So what is the point in continuing to play the charade? At this point, DH should keep LC if he wants to keep tabs on his dad, at the most. No therapy. She will just use it to say you abuse her and play the victim even more. Then, when you stop it, claim you couldn't handle a professional telling you how wrong you are. It's not worth the hassle or BS. The adjusting she means being a doormat and obeying her completely. Nope. As for how to handle it, Phil needs to go in timeout. Anytime he acts as her mouthpiece or tries to force communication, timeout. She suddenly is on his phone, hang up. Enforce the NC with Mill, and no explanations are needed. She is aware you do not wish to see or speak to her, as is he. They are using a loophole. Learn no is a complete sentence. Phil wants to visit with Mill, no is all that is needed. If they want more info, no that doesn't work for us, or no that will not be happening. Nothing more. Definitely TT so about it all, and remain on the same page. Sounds like UARW so far, which OS good. Best wishes up. Unfortunately, Phil needs consequences. He's nothing but Mill's flying monkey and you guys are taking the bait. You and DH need to come up with strong boundaries for Phil. DH needs to communicate these to him and give consequences. The hardest part of this is enforcing those boundaries. Nothing about your relationship with Mill can change because she will not acknowledge any wrongdoing. Going to therapy with a narcissist and/or an abuser is not a good idea, so I wouldn't even suggest it. You should, however, make a stipulation of opening contact with Mill that she goes to therapy and she needs to acknowledge her wrongdoing, show you, through her actions, that she is willing to change and apologize for what she has done. Until she does those things, there is no chance of resuming contact with her. DH needs to make that clear to Phil and tell him to stop trying to guilt and manipulate you into allowing Mill to disrespect your boundaries. Also, reiterate to him that if he ever calls you with Mill again, he will also be on a timeout. Tell him that you and DH do want a relationship with him, but it cannot involve Mill. He can visit, but not at your home. He needs to get a hotel and meet in a neutral place without Mill. If she shows up, the visit is over and he is in timeout. She's old, that's just how she is, you're our only child, we don't have much time left. Try responding with something similar to "You're right Phil, tomorrow isn't guaranteed for anyone. We only have one life to live and it's short. We've chosen to live a positive lifestyle and surround us with those who lift us up, not beat us down and cause very unnecessary drama. Life is too short to put up with people because that's just how they are, and if that excuse is acceptable to you, then this is just how we are. Mill, and Phil, needs to accept the fact that everyone involved is an adult. It's now a level playing field. There is no hierarchy of parents/children. They need to be as respectful of you and DH as you two need to be respectful of them. Unfortunately, for her, respect does not equal blindly obeying or tolerance of bad behavior. You should let Phil know that until she accepts this fact, and I wouldn't hold my breath, there cannot be a relationship with her. Who wants a relationship with someone when there's constant arguing, PA comments and blatant rudeness? Next story 2. Not feeling the connection with in-laws, ESP Mill and Sil, after almost a year of marriage. Hello, I got married to DH earlier this year after being together for 3 years. I'm extremely grateful for DH, he's been an amazing partner and we're expecting our first child soon. However, all through the relationship I've never felt the warmth from his family, although mine worships the ground he walks on, for e.g. There were always more dinners and get-togethers initiated and organized from my family's end, and still are, although his folks were always cordial at those events. I always chalked this out as Phil being an introvert and mostly kept to himself, hence uncomfortable hosting, although Mill is super talkative and outgoing. After the marriage, we started living with my in-laws. Initially I felt a little odd being left out of conversations as Mill wouldn't prefer chit-chatting except to give instructions, and being an introvert starting conversations doesn't come naturally to me, and her main way of conversation was gossip, which makes me uncomfortable. Although I would make multiple efforts to add my voice and DH would try his best to include me. I took up house chores and responsibilities early on. I am a doctor and was still working at that time, hoping to strike a chord somewhere, still somewhat feeling like an outsider despite DH's best efforts. I was trying my best to fit in, while navigating their behavior. Once or twice Mill asked me about not sitting to chat with her and pushed me to be more talkative like her, which felt hypocritical and caught me off guard as she was the one who barely showed interest apart from house chores, to which I replied I'm trying and I'd need little time to adjust. Mill is stay at home and healthy but would travel often with her side of the family. Once upon her return from one of her trips, she had a meltdown which I did not see coming. She called me nasty things, said I'd barely taken up the responsibility of the house, and held on to a lot of ego, although she had changed herself so much for my sake and worked around the house despite her age, which I did not appreciate or help her with, and basically behaved like a tenant. She also blamed me for not gelling up well with the family, and not maintaining a joyful environmental in their home. This broke my heart as I'd seen her as family from day one and put in a lot of effort for them. When DH confronted her, she excused everything by saying she held on to the frustration since the wedding so it all had to come out, and later apologized by saying conflict makes her unwell and anxious too, but she had no option. I mostly kept to myself after that, and we soon found out that I was expecting, so we let it slide, but DH was adamant that he would not tolerate such an outburst again. It's been a few months since the incident, and things have been calm apart from a few passive-aggressive remarks here and there, which I have learned to ignore. If ever I speak up or express concerns, it is labeled arguing back or taking things in the wrong direction. Little active effort has been to provide emotional support during my pregnancy, which hurt me a little. The bare minimum is being done by not adding to my workload at home and occasionally doing chores I am incapable of, and DH says she is trying her best by not asking me to work more, but I do feel isolated and alone at times. DH's elder sister, also a social butterfly, the ideal mother, daughter, and Dill according to her mom, lives in another city and has a 3-year-old. She too has always been cold and aloof, for e.g. one of the wedding functions hosted by my family she barely smiled and was constantly irritated when I inquired about this with DH and asked if everything was okay. He said she was just sleep deprived due to the kid. I let that slide, even though I felt a bit miffed that if my entire family can put on a smile and brave face, my grandmother had suddenly taken ill the night prior. For my sake, she could have at least smiled for her only sibling. She also never came up to me during the other functions, and since then not responding to my calls or texts on time, stating that she's busy with the toddler, and hasn't checked up on me since we broke the news, although I know there are almost daily calls between her and Mill. I have a great support system in the form of my DH friends, my own family who check up on me regularly and because of whom I've been able to get so far despite feeling low and helpless at times. Comment. Why are living with your in-laws? Which country are you living? If you are a doctor, you should have enough money to live in a separate house. It will never get better as long as you live there. I know that isn't what you want to hear, but this is your reality of your Mill. She considers you an unwanted intruder and behaves accordingly. The best I can say is to keep to your part of the house when you are home. Stop trying with her and keep your little family away from her. What are the circumstances on why you moved in with them? For me, this does have huge impact on motivation, on behavior, but also, did everyone sit down and talk about expectations for living together going forward? Sil doesn't want to be friends, let that one go. Unfortunately, your life will be the same and you will lose all control when it comes to parenting your child as long as you live there. If you can't move out, then there isn't a lot that can be done for you or your child. The only way for your lives to get better is to move out and cut all contact. I hope your little family be free soon. Unfortunately, nothing will ever change as long as you live under their roof. I know that's not what you wanted to hear, but that is the truth and will get worse when baby comes.